For 2022, I wanted to start my year with Tagore's writings, and this book that is in front of you was a present to me by me on my birthday last year. This book, on the face of it, it seems like one book, but it is actually a compilation of four books. It has a novel, Gitanjali, a short story collection, and his memoir, Reminiscences, Jeevan Smriti. So, this entire month, I'll be reading and reviewing his works. And this is the first work that I'm gonna review today on my channel. Welcome to Kitabi Buli Ladki series of Rabindranath Tagore, Part 1. My Reminiscences. Tagore sir is worldwide known as an Indian poet and also a freedom fighter. But this book is neither a memoir nor an autobiography about the person we know. This is basically a book that talks about his childhood. These are the remnants of his memory. The remaining part, whatever was left in his memory while writing down this book, is in the book. In his 50s, when he wrote down this book, he was suffering from failing health. And at this point, he started writing about his childhood, about his journey as a student, about his parents, and his poetic journey. Flipping through the pages of this book, I got to learn a lot about his life. He belonged to an influential upper caste family. His grandfather was an industrialist, and his father was a Hindu reformer and preacher. So he traveled a lot. Basically, Rabindranath Tagore was not allowed in his own home and inside premises for such a long time. He lived with servants in servants' quarters. For him, the love of father and mother was something that he had to earn. It was not something that he got so easily. Although he was caged in his own childhood, but he believes that this was the right way of parenting because it made him fall in love with his own father and mother even more. At the same time, he was not a student or a person that was interested in studies. He hated education. He hated the way education was, imparted to the people. He hated English. He hated his tutors, and he was a disappointment to his own family. He believed that education should be imparted in someone's native language only and not in a foreign language because the person is comfortable and is easily able to comprehend the concepts in their native language. So his view about education was something which I think is also in the National Education Policy 2020. He loved poetry, and that is visible in his own memoir also. He has talked about his poetic journey and literary companions a lot in this book. There were many literary companions in his life: his father, his brother, his mother, even his cousins. His father was someone who he knew hardly, but he also had a lot of respect for him because his father basically never stopped him from committing mistakes. He was one who told him to do whatever he wanted and learn from his own mistakes. So this was something that shaped a lot of his thoughts and a lot of his thinking in the future life. He was never dependent on anyone for his own learnings. He learned everything himself and from his own mistakes. If I have to summarize my feeling after reading his life, I would say it was enriching. With each chapter, with each remnants that I was reading, I was learning something. But there are some things, some caveats that now I'm going to tell you if you're planning to read about his life. The book is not an autobiography because it's not written in a chronological or a systematic manner. And it is not also a conventional memoir because in a memoir it's more about something or some memory that has impacted your life. These are basically the remnants or the remaining portion of his life that talks about his childhood, about his poetic journey. It is not about his life as a freedom fighter or as a great Indian poet. Rather, it is about his life that made him what we know him as of today. So if you're someone who is really interested in reading about his, childhood, who is not interested about his social political life but about his, personal life, then surely go ahead and read about it. But since it's not written in a conventional memoir form, I would say that to provoke the interest in you, it's kind of difficult. But if you're someone who is willing to read about his poetic journey, about his life as a kid or a life before he became famous, then you will be able to go through the pages because it's not a conventional memoir. At the same time, another caveat that I want to add is that it's a classic. And when it comes to classic, the language is kind of hard to understand. It's very descriptive in nature. At points, you will feel like the author is not coming straight to the point. It's very detailed, descriptive, and also full of metaphors. So, if you're a beginner, I would never ever recommend you to pick up this book. But if you're an advanced or an intermediate reader, make sure to pick up this book only if you are interested in reading about his life or are interested in reading classics. Because it doesn't matter if you are like an advanced reader or an intermediate reader. If you're not into reading classics, you will find it utterly boring. So these were the only caveats that I wanted to give. So if you're someone who wants to read about his childhood, go for it. And this was my review for the first part or the first book of Rabindranath Tagore for this month. This is a mini series, and I end this mini series with my first review. Hope you find this review useful, and if you find it useful, make sure to subscribe to my channel and wait for the next review.